It was the night before Switchmas, when all through the house, not a console was stirring, not a PC or a mouse. Little Timmy was in bed, awaiting Christmas Day, remembering the words of his mother. "Don't worry, Timmy, we've already got Red Dead Redemption for Switch. It's at home." A big thanks to the publisher for the review copy for Guns and Spurs 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Is little Timmy going to be delighted when he wakes up on Christmas Day, tears open his gifts, and finds a digital copy of this one on his internal memory? Or will it be an eternal, painful memory he can never quite forget? Well, my name is Mark Walker. Welcome back to SwitchUp. Now let's find out. My time in Guns and Spurs 2 began as it has in other similar games, arriving at this town, which here is called Hopeland. Initially I was slightly concerned as it seemed to consist of simply 2 buildings and not a lot else, but as I mounted my graceful steed and sped down the road, I was soon in Hopeland proper, where I gathered myself at the local tavern and slowly approached the bar. What on earth? I don't know what just happened there. Guns and Spurs 2 doesn't give you a storyline. You are literally dropped into the town, introduced to your horse and the general controls. Now, as you'd imagine, it's a third-person action game where the right stick lets you shoot enemies and the left, hopefully, lets you walk around. You won't be creeping and crouching, making your way through the undergrowth to hunt different creatures, although there is hunting here, as we'll talk about in a minute. And while you can aim down your weapon, don't expect any gyro controls. And in actual fact, don't always expect to be able to shoot at your enemies, because occasionally you may find the game glitches out and decides that you are not actually allowed to shoot them, which isn't the end of the world, because you can always get out your trusty lasso. Now the lasso mechanic, as you can see, might be familiar to some people, but by throwing it, does have a tendency to disappear, but you do throw it, I'm assured, it may suddenly incapacitate the enemy, having them instantly hogtied, from which you can pick them up and place them on your horse. The shooting isn't all terrible. There are cover mechanics here, where if you go near a crate, you might crouch down. I say might because it didn't always happen. Unfortunately though, enemies are of the variety that run towards you continuously, but their bullets are actually slow enough that you can dodge out the way. The world of Guns and Spurs 2 is also slightly magical. The environment will literally change before your very eyes, within mere feet of your character. As enemies drop to the ground, so as not to become an eyesore, they disappear instantly, leaving only the remains of some ammunition or maybe a health pickup. Now your health is shown in the corner of the screen, and I've got to be honest, I'm a little confused by it. Sometimes it started to fill up on its own, but at others it stayed low, and if it reaches 0, well, you die. Unfortunately though, you can't manually save until you've purchased your first property, and if you die, you will literally go to the very beginning of the game, tutorials and all, and have to start again. Your first task though is to take out the bandits at the nearby campsite, which they've tactically placed so as not to cover their goods from any rain, and then head into the local town. Now the town has a few different amenities. You've got a gun shop. Here you can spend your hard-earned currency on various different weapons, or you can head into the general store and buy yourself a new outfit. It's not just clothes for yourself though, you can buy different steeds. I'm pretty sure I even saw a unicorn in there. Now the control of the horse is probably worse than it looks. You can dash, which will affect its stamina, but it very often gets stuck on the environment. It won't be able to go up simple slopes, and in a move to avoid any potentially horrendous scenes, you cannot jump off the edges of cliffs. There's a map that you can use to help you navigate the world, but I did discover something slightly unusual. If you go off the beaten path and start to investigate those wondrous locations, the map loses its ability to track your position. The icon will literally disappear from the map, and you'll be stranded in the wilderness, using your compass to get home. Now out on those open roads, you may find yourself a side quest, and we haven't even got into the main quest yet. Oh no, you've got that to look forward to. Side quests are characters that have exclamation marks above their head, which we've seen many times before. What you haven't seen before though is the lottery that comes with finding one of these people, because sometimes they'll have a question mark above their head, you'll dismount your trusty steed, and they won't talk to you. They'll just stare blankly and lifelessly at you. At other times though, a side quest will be present. such as this guy who managed to lose his horse and wanted me to guide him home by going half a kilometer in the other direction, and somehow he was going to follow my horse. I did feel like maybe it would have made more sense for him to get on my horse and come with me, but no, not in Guns and Spurs 2. So you travel half a kilometer to the north, you arrive at the mission destination, and what does it say? It says bounty complete, because they did not want to use a different asset from those that you use in every other quest in the game. No, they used the bounty complete screen. Ay caramba. Still, it's a bit of money in your pocket, you're feeling good about life, you look around, you cannot see your horse anywhere, so you whistle. It appears quite literally out of thin air. I told you the game was filled with magic. It's not only the terrain which changes, your horse can also spawn right next to you. The main brunt of story missions in the game focus on different bounties. In your menu you can see all of the bounties. They range from random generic man at the bottom all the way up to more generic man at the top. They generally take the form of 2 or 3 bounty missions where you can go and try and capture them dead or alive, followed by a bounty boss mission. And oh my, they are special. Now those standard bounties have a location appear on the map in the form of a gold star. You head there with the wind blowing in your hair, admiring the scenery as it flashes past, and as you arrive, you'll see a bunch of generic NPCs running straight towards you. You'll look around for a cover item, but there won't be one, so you'll hang around in the shadow of a tree, trying to take long shots until you realise that actually the game doesn't register your shots unless you can literally smell your enemy's breath. I'm sure that was intentional, designed so that you could really see those character models up close and personal in all their glory, but as far as gameplay goes, it doesn't really lend itself to an overly enjoyable experience as you strafe left and right, shooting over and over again until everyone's dead. Sure, you could try and lasso the enemy, gaining you that full bounty, but by this point, you've partially lost the will to live. So those are bounties. You take them back to base if you survive, because if you die, remember, unless you've purchased the property, which in fairness is only $300, you will have to go back to the start of the game. Let's assume that you've purchased the property. After you've done a couple of those, you then fight the boss bounty. How is this different, you might wonder? Well, not a lot. It's in a different location, so there is that. And you head out on your trusty steed, once again, wind blowing in your hair, arrive and strafe left and right for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Hoping to hit the enemies, but then when you do kill your bounty or capture them, you get to face off against them in a duel. Now duels are essentially 3-button prompts in a quick time event. In this instance, it was up, down, trigger, and oh, that's it really. There is a little bit more. I did mention there's hunting in the game, and at certain points you'll find locations which allow you to hunt for wild animals. There's no indication as to where those animals will spawn, and headshots do count and will knock them down instantly, gaining you more score. You might have a bear spawn in front of you who takes a few more shots, but that's really the gist of it. There are hidden horseshoes throughout the game. There are the fast travel systems that we come to expect as you visit a new town. And after all that hard work, I headed over to the bar in the furthest town and wanted to relax, only to find that it was identical to that very first bar. And I saw a look in the barman's eye as he, oh my goodness. Guns and Spurs 2 is an appallingly bad game. From its controls to its gameplay, I am very sad to say it is not good. With that said, it does function. You can go on bounties, you can shoot enemies, and you can ride a horse. There aren't really many more things than that. Visually, Guns and Spurs 2 looks bad. Doesn't look quite as bad as I thought it would, and it doesn't perform quite as badly as I had thought, but it doesn't look great. Now, in fairness, they have tried to do a few things here, like having a day-night cycle that does work. In fact, it's so realistic, it kind of reminded me of the ticking of a clock as time passed by. And then I noticed that, yeah, it actually does seem to tick. The shadows move with every second across the floor. Animations are, the scenery pops in and out, buildings appear and disappear, but generally you've got more than 30 frames per second. It seems to go up to 60 FPS when you're inside a building, and strangely, so as to keep things interesting, when you do exit a building, very often your character will spin round so you're facing the building. You might think that as you walked through the door forwards, you'd still be facing forwards as you left, but no, not in Guns and Spurs 2. Load times are very swift indeed actually. As you leave and enter buildings, it's almost instant, and I I haven't crashed the game just yet. On the audio front, well, sound effects are poor, and they're more than poor, they're really quite annoying. Listen to the hooves of the horse. As for other music, probably the best piece and the most fitting for the game is that of the music when you enter the bar. Guns and Spurs 2 will set you back £26.99. It does currently have a discount of 10%, which takes it down to the balmy price of £24.29, and there is actually a physical version of this, which has left me quite flabbergasted, especially when you consider that at the moment, Red Dead Redemption is 27 quid on sale, but regardless of that, 24 quid. That's daylight robbery. If you're a collector and somehow want to add a slightly obscure title to your collection, then I can see that being a viable option. But for everyone else, you'll be waiting for a 95% sale. No, make that 99. Sadly, Guns and Spurs 2 is not going to make little Timmy happy when he wakes up on Christmas Day. When he's finished weeping, we can only hope that another relative bought him Red Dead Redemption. It gets a SwitchUp score of 21%. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the content. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you're not too disappointed, and hopefully, it helps out some people. Thanks to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content, and as always, for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!